Hi there, my name is Lo. Welcome to my channel where I discuss everything between Hermès and grocery bags. Some time ago I watched this video by Thor from Anthropology about why he didn't have any Louis Vuitton bags in his collection, and it prompted me to think about why I don't have any Louis Vuitton bags in my collection, and that prompted me to think about why I don't have any bags in my collection from the major fashion houses. Then I'm talking Hermès, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, DIOR, Prada, Gucci. And this video is by no means to bash on any of these brands. If you love these brands, I'm not here to judge you. But I also wanted to make a point about that often you might feel that your collection is not complete without a Chanel classic flap, for example, or an Hermès Birkin, or it's not complete if you don't have a bag from every major fashion house. And I just wanted to point out that your collection is perfect with the bags that you love, with the brands that you love. You don't need to experience any FOMO just because you make different decisions than somebody else, or because you make decisions that are perhaps a bit out of the ordinary. I wanted to take you through 5 reasons why I haven't gone for these major fashion houses thus far, and why I'm most likely not to get anything from them in any case. So first of all, and most importantly, I would say it is the looks. And when I'm talking about looks, and it's also to some extent about specifications, it is about materials, the amount of logos they have on them, but it's also just about the silhouettes that brands tend to go for example. So first I wanted to touch a bit upon monogram. There's a lot of brands that have either monogram or jacquard from Dior, for example, or something else, that like the triangles from Prada, which just make things very logo-y. Personally, I'm a big lover of the low-key luxury, and anything that has a lot of logos on it I'm just not so likely to reach for. For example, also with this Coach bag, it has a lot of logos on it. I'm just noticing I find it very busy, I find it very hard to style. I am just not reaching for this bag, and at the moment of filming this video I am actually trying to sell this bag because I basically never use it. Also, it's related to the style of bag that it is, but I think mostly because of the way that it looks. Then there's the matter of the materials that are being used, also combined to some extent I would say with how logo-y it is. Usually if I go out like financially to buy a bag, I tend to go for grained leather. I don't like spending a lot of money on canvas, even though I've been told it is very durable. That is also related to, for example, canvas usually being very busy in terms of logos, so I'm not a very big fan of canvas. I'm also not looking to spend a lot of money on nylon, for example, so nylon is something that Prada will often use, but I'm not really willing to go out of that price range of like a Longchamp Le Pliage type of bag when it comes to nylon. And then there's some bags that are made of leather, so for example the Prada Supernova bag, but these are then usually smooth types of leathers, and I know I am clumsy, so for me it's just not a good idea. Even though I'm careful with my bags, I know I'm going to bump into an obstacle sooner or later, and I'm just really scared to scratch up an expensive bag. And if I have grained leather, then usually it's less of an issue. And I know that Prada, for example, has the Saffiano leather, Louis Vuitton has the Epi leather, I mean they also have the Empreinte leather of course, but that again has a lot of logos, so they do have their Epi leather, and there's Saffiano leather from Prada, but I also don't really like these very structured types of leather. The only exception I would say is caviar type of leather, because it looks more naturally grained, if that makes sense, and even that I would only prefer to have on smaller pieces just because of the type of structure that it brings along. And that also brings me to the point of how a lot of these bags are designed. For example, Chanel is well known for the classic flap. I have this dupe flap bag. I'm finding that also with this bag, I'm just not reaching for it because I'm not a big fan of the very structured, squarey types of bags. You might have seen in previous videos that also just when it comes to flap bags, I'm really struggling with a number of bags in terms of, I don't really like them. I don't really feel that they appeal to me anymore. And that's why I'm not looking to invest, for example, in a Chanel classic flap. But I feel kind of similar about a number of bags from Hermès, for example. So the Kelly bag, beautiful in its own way, but it's very structured, very angular. I just don't think it's something that I would reach for with the style that I have and with the taste that I have. Secondly, it is really a lot about pricing and pricing policies with these bags. So I feel that when it comes to these high-end fashion houses, I'm kind of late to the game given all of the price increases. And it might sound a bit weird, but I'm kind of feeling this non-buyer's regret, and I actually feel that it's too late to get a piece from Chanel or from Louis Vuitton, for example. Also, there's been quite a number of complaints, especially when it comes to Chanel, about the quality, but I've also been hearing this about Louis Vuitton. So given the massive price increases over the past couple of years, I just don't really feel like it's worth it anymore. Obviously, I could go onto the pre-loved market, but then I would still find that I'm mostly paying over retail for quite a number of bags just because the prices have gone up so much. So I don't know if it makes sense, but I feel that if I wanted to have bought a Chanel Classic Flap, for example, that is something I should have done pretty much already a decade ago, when the prices were more reasonable and where the quality was much better. So to some extent, for me, that door has been kind of closed, and it seems like it's kind of too late for me to get any of these bags anymore, even if there are variants that I really like a lot, because I would feel that I'm overpaying, especially for the quality that I'm given at this point in time. Point 3, related to price, but it's also sort of the relative spend, and this is also just a bit of psychology. Perhaps this is also something that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, but the bag that I felt was my dream bag was one of the first bags that I got, and it was this Loewe puzzle. I've been finding this so beautiful, and it was really one of the first bags that I fell in love with. I knew it was expensive, but I managed to get it for half price. That always kind of set a limit in my head, like this is the amount of money that I'm willing to spend on the bag I love the most. And as most of you will know, a lot of these bags from these high-end luxury brands are a lot more than a small Loewe puzzle, even with the price increases, but also because I got this bag for only half the price. I would really have to kind of pass a psychological boundary in terms of, am I willing to spend more on a bag that I'm probably going to love less, and am I going to spend significantly more on a bag that I'm going to love less? For now, I haven't really found any bag that goes beyond the Loewe bags that I have. My favorite bag in my collection in terms of looks, it's actually the Loewe hammock bag, which I also managed to get for half price. But there I was thinking for a very long time, like, should I get this bag? And then when I actually got it, I had to let it kind of grow on me. But now it is the bag that I think is the most beautiful, and I'm just finding it really hard to pass that psychological barrier that I would spend more on a bag than what my Loewe puzzle and my Loewe hammock have cost. Well, I don't find these bags as interesting or as beautiful. So I could say I'm very blessed in that sense, that I've already found purse piece early in my collection stages by just getting the bags that I love the most. And perhaps that's also a tip to all of you out there, that if you are getting interested in luxury bags and you're considering buying a luxury bag, don't ask yourself, like, what is the first luxury bag I should get, because it should be part of my collection. Like, I should get a Louis Vuitton Neverfull, for example. I mean, if you love a Louis Vuitton Neverfull, get a Louis Vuitton Neverfull. But really think of which bag will kind of give you purse piece as early on in your collection phases, and it will make it easier to resist a lot of the other bags that are out there when you always have your comparison material. Point 4, I was already saying that a lot of these luxury brands, especially Hermès and Chanel, well, I think Chanel is out of it by now in terms of pricing. I also think that Louis Vuitton, for their canvas pieces, are going way beyond what I would find reasonable to pay for a canvas piece. But I just don't appreciate this whole strategy of making things as exclusive as possible, and especially when it comes to Chanel or Hermès. I really don't want to play any games. I don't want to go on a journey, and I don't want to create a purchase history to be able to get a bag later on. I have a bag collection. I don't invest usually in anything else in terms of luxury. So there's really no reason for me to be buying anything else from these luxury brands besides the bags that I want to have. And that's why I find it highly unlikely, also because I don't like the classic flap silhouette and that kind of stuff. So I find it highly unlikely that I would get one of the classic models from Chanel. I also find it highly unlikely that I would get any of the Coda bags from Hermès. And it doesn't mean that Hermès doesn't have a number of bags that I love. And in a couple of weeks, I will put out a video with bags that are on my radar for 2023. So I will keep it a surprise for now, but I will disclose what Hermès bags I actually do have on my radar. But I'm really not going into this whole process of buying crying and then begging a sales associate to please sell me a bag. I'm just not here for it. And then my last point, and that is security, and that really ties together with a number of the things I have said earlier. But I use my bags are not there to sit on the shelf, and I will take my bags out in public. By out in public, I don't mean that I will step into my car with my luxury bag and then step out of my car and take 2 steps and go into a fancy restaurant, for example. No, I take my bags to work, I take my bags on the train, I take my bags into very crowded areas. And that is also probably why I love more of the low-key luxury, because I don't really feel secure if I am carrying around a bag that screams that it's from some certain brand. So for example with the Louis Vuitton monogram or with the DIOR jacquard. And I also don't like a bag that screams, hey, I'm worth thousands of dollars. So even with an Hermès Birkin or with a Kelly, for example, I think that these bags have become so recognizable and people know that they are so ridiculously expensive that I personally wouldn't feel very comfortable towing those around on my daily business. I mean, I'm always aware of my surroundings, and especially when I go to Amsterdam or other big cities in the Netherlands, I know that there are pickpockets and that I have to be aware, but I'm just really scared that if I would carry like a Birkin, somebody's actually going to rip that out of my hand. And not only would that cost me a lot of money, but also having that experience of somebody taking something from you in such a violent manner, and that there's really not all that much you can do to stop it. Like with pickpockets, it's more likely that they will go for victims where it's easy to pickpocket them, and I know by now what I can do to make sure that that doesn't happen to me. But I just think that going out in a very crowded area with an Hermès Birkin is asking for trouble, and it's not something that I want to do. So yeah, these are just a number of the reasons why I don't really buy any bags from the major fashion houses. And no, for example, Gucci I haven't mentioned very specifically or explicitly, but again, you can imagine that's also mostly a combination of the canvas and the logos and all that kind of stuff and being very recognizable. Well, for all the aforementioned reasons, I really prefer to go for the low-key luxury. Just again to say, there's absolutely no judgment in anybody wearing Louis Vuitton monogram, for example. But I'm just finding it's not for me. It's generally not something I'm willing to spend my money on. And also right now, I've luckily already kind of made my peace purse with my Loewe bags. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to get any other bags, obviously. But it does make me very critical about how much money I'm actually willing to spend on a bag that I actually don't like as much as the Loewe puzzle or the Loewe hammock. That's it for today. I hope you found it useful, enjoyable, somewhat comforting. For now, remember, there's a styling, a situation, and a taste for everything, so don't judge, wear whatever the bag you like. Until next time, or as we would say in Dutch, doei!